Bright installations, bold performances, provocative pictures, and painted walls. Art has long been living in the new era and formation. Ask questions, be surprised, experience new sensations, and set off on an exciting journey through the world of contemporary art with Modern Art Program. Today in the program, unusual art at the Museum of Broken Hearts. German Drama Theater has presented a new Karagos. Pyotr Frolov and his fantastic Azbuka. Realism of Vorobyev's artist. Art objects in public spaces. Modern art finds inspiration in the most unexpected sources. For example, in parting. The topic of the failed relationship turned out to be so global that today there are 3 museums of broken hearts in the world. The first appeared in Croatia in 2006, another opened in the United States. 3 years ago, one opened in Kazakhstan. The theme exists all the time somewhere in the air. It was hovering. And now, well, 3 different people in different parts of the world came to mind. When Olga opened the museum, she did not expect much success, but it turned out that many are willing to share their experience of relations. So, in a short time, the collection was enlarged with interesting and sad stories, and the organizers illustrated them with installations. I do not think that our illustrations are any art objects, and most importantly, it's history, human history. Stories of love, history of injuries. Not all of them are so sad. They all ended in a break, but not all of them are sad. Bath with gifts, which the girl returned to the boy trader. A sandal with a broken heel on her husband, a pot of pilmeni. These ordinary objects have now become symbols. Part of the exposition is real things donated by the heroes of the stories. The remaining exhibits are the work of designer Timur Aktayev. At the initial stage, he helped to create the exposition. I have become brave for this year, maybe even too much, that I already create my installations. Some I do completely by myself with my own hands. Installations help visitors better understand the history of broken relationships, and of course create a special atmosphere in the museum. It's as if the air itself is saturated with emotions. Sincerity of each person. Here, they said their sincere feelings, how they experienced it. The Museum of Broken Hearts is an art space which is not limited to an exhibition of other people's stories. Visitors can arrange real scenes here with the breaking of dishes. Such performances have a useful function. They allow you to get rid of negative emotions without damaging the relationship. Before the wedding, Asan and Aygerim also decided to undergo an original ritual. According to Olga Aktayeva, it helps to better understand the responsibility and importance of the decision to create a family. I saw my girlfriend from some new side. I became even closer to her inner world. What art space without an interactive platform? Here it is also non-standard like everything else. The club, It's All Grown Up, is talking about the hidden things. Famous people become invited guests. Visitors can ask them any questions without any restrictions. I do not know much of such places in the city where you can come here and do not waste time. And here you can get food not for the stomach, as it usually happens, but for the brain, for the soul, for, in general, some kind of its inner world. For 1 year, the museum acquired the status of a platform for unusual dialogues and the resolution of personal problems. At the same time, it remains a center of culture. Visitors share their stories and they turn into artifacts. While people are able to love, this space will be replenished with new art objects.
Mein Lieber, du bist das einzige Licht in meinem Leben. Leuchtest wie ein Stern in der Dunkelheit.
The stories of tragic love occupy a special place in theatrical art. So in the repertoire of the German Drama Theater, the production of Karagos has appeared based on the work of Mukhtar Awezov. A new interpretation of the drama is presented in the dance genre. The choreographer from Germany, Florian Bilbao, was invited as a second director. He helped the heroes tell the tragic story of Karagos with the body language. He already had work experience in Uzbekistan, also over national material, only Uzbek. He took care of the material very carefully, and therefore he tried to bring plastic things closer to that. to those customs, to the traditions that we knew, to which we are accustomed. Work in the genre of plastic theater required from actors a high level of physical fitness. Therefore, the first stage of the work was sports training, and until now, rehearsals start with a warm-up. It's all very sensual, it's interesting. There are a lot of metaphors, a lot of references to Kazakh traditions, rituals, to Kazakh dance, despite the fact that all plastic is still a modern ballet. Dance theater suggests musical accompaniment. Another foreign visitor, composer Jan Ziegel, participated in its creation. His experience with European dance companies helped create a modern but authentic music. The whole musical form was created in parallel with the performance itself during rehearsals. That is, they went out for a picnic, they recorded there the living sounds of nature, and then he somehow compiled them further with music. Plastic drawing of the play and the unique music of its kind complete the text. The Goethe Institute of Kazakhstan helped with the translation into German. Reading the text, the actors tried to convey the specificity of Kazakh speech through intonation. When we were on tour in Berlin, my friends, the Germans, came and they really liked that the whole story was clear to them. That's what the Kazakh culture was conveyed in Schiller's language. Mukhtar Awezov's play is the story of Karagoz's unhappy love for a cousin. To prevent this kind of union, native girls give her away to marry another. Unable to withstand the separation from her beloved, Karagoz dies. The plot of the drama made the work of the performance uneasy, but at the same time gave an opportunity for different interpretations. In the production, the Brechtian method was used. The actors withdrew and analyzed the actions of their characters. I understand Karagoz well, but at the same time it's very difficult for me to imagine how I would behave in this situation. Initially, it was a task that all the girls who play in the play are Karagoz. Everyone simply plays his Karagoz. Each leads to his own line of Karagoz. Personally, my character, he seems to be merged with the Kobuz. It's like Karagoz. It's her crying, experiencing. This is her love. Senses in the performance are transmitted not only by characters, but also by scenery. The huge rollout field on the stage symbolizes disorganization, lack of support for the main character. And costumes from the fashion designer Asel Nusip-Kozhanova make the images of the heroes even more original. When this fashion combination is combined on the stage, the Kazakh drama is combined in German, the Russian text is combined, and the wonderful plastic is perfect. It turns out something new. This is an interesting product that is very untypical for the Kazakh theater. The production is new, but it already has a rich tour history. The premiere show was held in Astana within the framework of Expo 2017, after the theater went on a tour of 5 European capitals. The history of Karagoz did not leave the foreign audience indifferent, and the local audience gave the opportunity to get acquainted with the new genre for Kazakhstan. The tree is an oak. In an oak there is a hollow in which the dragon sits. The dragon in this hollow by profession, announcer. Curator of the exhibition, Petr Frolov, Artyom Bronikov, can conduct a separate tour of each picture. Above the exhibition, ABC, the artist from St. Petersburg worked more than 4 years. This means a project that invented, which means that Frolov, together then with the art patron, who wished his child to study the alphabet on his own. Yes, he studied the letters on his own alphabet. The order to create an exclusive alphabet was so inspiring that it turned into a whole series of paintings. Today, the letters from the children's book do not leave adults indifferent. I was very pleased to see the topic was Azbuka, because as a foreigner looking at each picture, there is here a new vocabulary at once, which I can learn. The exhibition was made interactive. Next to each picture is a board on which you can write all the font words to a given letter. Children's, it would seem, entertainment awakens excitement. Visitors spend a few hours at the pictures looking for more and more new details. You see how a person comes to work, and the first thing that attracts him, some very probably, a major image stops. Then you see how his eyes light up in the process of viewing and getting to know work. Peter Frolov carries the audience into the world with fairy tale characters, unexpected twists, and unpredictable discoveries. This world exists not only in illustrations to the alphabet, but also in other works of Frolov. Immediately, Frolov's pictures reminded me of my children's books. In a sense, there is something in common with Alice in Wonderland, and that there is such a clear pictorial style, illustration. But in the fact there is now a share of absurdity. Heroes of Frolov's paintings are not static. Each artist defined his character, built an interaction between them. If you look at the picture for a long time, it begins to seem that history is developing on it. From the very beginning, the plot is written as a literary work. That is, he takes a sheet, a pen, and describes the plot of his work. And only after that he proceeds to the work, the development of the plot on the canvas. The artist shares his impressions and invites viewers to plunge into the fairy tale world. According to curators, Peter Frolov can inspire anything. This means that many more of such pictures with stories will be written. Hello, come on in. Glad to see you. Here we have a workshop and an exposition immediately starting from the hallway. You can see what kind of masks we have. These are real African masks. These are not fakes. Elena and Viktor Vorobyov. They have been working together since the 1990s. In his work, they use different techniques and genres. In 2017, the Kazakhstani duo participated in the main exhibition of the Venice Biennial. Their illustration, The Artist is Asleep, was presented in the section Artists and Books. Also in the resume, Vorobyov, participation in international exhibitions in Berlin, Barcelona, and Kiev. Here is our workplace, and as it were, a residential place. We are doing everything here. We receive guests and work. In general, everything that you see is like our creative art situation. Well, at the moment we have such a job. It is quite complicated. The project, which is called Vintage, it is based on the one hand on reality, on the other hand on some fiction. And it is connected with our project, The Artist is Asleep. If anyone knows our installation, which was made 20 years ago and last year was exhibited in the main project of the Venice Biennial, she was a sleeping artist covered with a blanket. We decided, as it were, to imagine such a situation as if the artist woke up and went out to protest against anything and what happens to him. He is not protected by us except by his blanket, a blanket which was always hidden by our artist, which actually was not visible. He was always asleep under him. Yes, that is, the person himself, he has an intimate inner space, and he falls into such a situation, and the power manifests itself. And he falls into this fan, as they say, or vintage. What is the best mood for creativity? I think that all artists have a sense of feeling that is born inside them, who understand that you need to do something. Some kind of creativity is taking place. Little by little, some ideas are born that we begin to discuss and implement. What materials do you use for your work? One of the last works, it is called Mint Art. Here's a whole story related to this work. As we went to Issyk, on the way we were stopped for the absence of this sign. We paid him a fine and he says, "Okay, so no one stops you, I'll draw this sign." He pulled out a piece of A4 paper, cut off half, and drew a pen. Well, this sign was with us. Different ideas, they, as it were, push their own, the very material of embodiment. What inspires you? We do not relate to those artists who exist as if doing works on the basis of some kind of fantasy, flying away to some fantastic area. That is, we do not invent anything. We always have a concrete reality, a concrete case. They are pushing to create a certain project, and you know it really works. And this is, as it were, quite relevant, because this is the reality that the viewer always considers. Do you have creative crises? We have a leaflet on which the mass is listed there, more than 15, probably points where we need to implement. It does not always work out quickly because many works, maybe they are expensive financially, and therefore they seem to move. Well, often not as fast as one would like, for example. What do you like about the genre of installation? What is interesting is the installation that is located in space, and the person plunges entering this space. It affects a person with many of these expressive means. There is sound and light and image and volume. What does beauty mean to you?
Говорят, что красота – это ругательное слово для современного искусства. Но на самом деле, конечно…
They say that beauty is a dirty word for modern art, but in fact, of course, aesthetic qualities for us are very important. And beauty for us is perhaps not so much as some kind of beautiful things in the conventional sense, made things. Most likely, this is exactly an articulated idea. What is articulated is precisely expressed by concrete means. That is, you, well, and other artists immediately see that this idea is expressed here so specifically. It can be well, or a photograph, or a graphic. And how it's done, that is, we see it, and we get exactly the same aesthetic pleasure from the exact expression of thought. This is very good and interesting.
И получаем точно такое же эстетическое наслаждение от точного выражения мысли. Это очень хорошо, интересно.
Works of contemporary art can be found anywhere. Today, even a shopping trip is similar to visiting art space. For example, this musical fountain in one of the shopping centers is nothing more than an installation. The kinetic sculpture of the authorship of Eduard Kazaryan is called The Scales of Time. The beginning of each hour, this art object marks soundtracks to famous films. Every visitor to the shopping center can stop here for a second and think about one of the most important issues of mankind. Time, and how it is generally distributed and where it comes from, where it goes. And this works, say, an attempt by plastic means with the use of kinetics to give this atmosphere, this is the state, these are the thoughts to man. Well, try to answer them this way. The object weighs more than 3 tons and its height is 18 meters. This kinetic sculpture is the largest in Kazakhstan and is considered to be one of the largest in the world. In addition, about 100 parts are set in motion. The fact that it is kinetic is also very important. Well, let's say it will communicate more actively with people. It will lure. And again, this is movement. It always draws attention to the sculpture itself. To force the sculpture to move, Khazaryan had to show miracles of engineering thought. Each mechanism in the design is a separate invention. There were 40 people working on the fountain assembly. In my workshop, we collected such a module. Each of the kinetic elements was collected. We checked for many times how it rotates, how it works, what reliability. And only then it was already here. For Edward, this work is not the first experience of placing sculptures in public spaces. Visitors to shopping centers also know his works from the series Monumental Ceramics. I realized that for a sculpture, this is a kind of test, but this is the place where many people will see it. And accordingly, this is action, some kind it will have an influence on them anyway. At least a second, but they give her attention. The author of the works admits that there is a share of risks in this. It is not known how the sculpture will withstand the onslaught of interested spectators. But on the other hand, he is sure that the presence of works of art in our daily lives is a must. I generally believe that the city should be treated as a gallery, as a museum. That is, I want the works of art and free creative things, not only monuments, surround us in the whole city. I'd say shopping centers. For me, it's such a first step. According to the sculpture, art awakens in people a sense of beauty and respect for the world that surrounds them. Therefore, the more art objects in public spaces, the more useful it is for the urban environment.